Campbell Valley Farms in Langley, BC, just literally next to the US border. And this is the farm of a previous student of mine, also somebody that I've consulted for, Heidi Cook. And this is a mixed vegetable market garden, in many ways pretty much a carbon copy of everything I've been talking about and teaching for a long time. But this is Heidi's first year in business, and so I'm going to talk to Heidi, but first I'm going to just try a little something different in this video. I'm just going to kind of walk around and show you some stuff that she's doing that I think is really good, and maybe some things she might change, which actually she'll probably mention in the interview. But let's just take a little bit of a walk around this farm and look at some stuff. There's some pretty cool things happening here. So this farm is a 3/4 acre in production, and they're doing mixed vegetables. So they've got a CSA, a 50-member CSA. They're selling to some restaurants and selling to some stores. They're actually selling to Nature's Fair, which is a franchise, a chain store. And the farm is certified organic. And I believe they were able to be certified in their first year because they bought this farm and it was a certified organic Christmas tree farm. So now they're doing vegetables and it has still stayed certified organic. They're growing all kinds of vegetables here. Pretty mixed bag, actually. One crop that I'm surprised to see as much as I am is this celeriac. They're doing a lot of celeriac, and you know, that's a crop that I would never say is a high value crop, but that's okay. They've got a good market for it. Heidi has a chef that's buying all of this celeriac from her, and that's pretty cool because celeriac or celery, you can actually go fairly high density, so you can actually plant a lot of it in a bed. Yes, it takes a long time to grow, but your yield can be really, really high. So this is a crop that you can actually make some good money on if you got a place to sell it. One thing she's done with all of her field blocks, which was my recommendation, but it's cool to see it pan out, is that she's really done the fabrics well. According to her, they kind of were a little late to do them. She wishes she would have done them earlier in the season, but she's gone pretty hardcore with them. Like, she's got walkway fabrics in every walkway. Now, I've done this for a number of years, and there's a couple things about it I want to say. One is I don't know if it's a long-term solution, but it is a really good short-term solution for weed suppression. Mainly in that on any new farm, and particularly like a new field block, there's going to be a ton of weed pressure at the beginning. So if you can get fabrics like this down early, it is going to save you a lot of time at the beginning pushing a stirrup hoe or a wheel hoe or whatever you're using. So it's going to save you time there, which is really crucial at the beginning of a farming season. The only problem with, or the main problem with these bed fabrics in the walkways is that every time you turn the bed, dirt gets into them and they eventually just get weeds that grow in those fabrics. And so if that's what's happening, then they kind of lose their point. But I think they're really good at the beginning because it's going to save you time, and it's also going to keep weed pressure down from either blowing in or just killing off the weeds that are in there. So I really think she was smart to do that. She also went ahead and did the perimeter fabrics, which I think is good as well. I think I would like to see her do a wider fabric. She only put down a 3-foot wide fabric. If it was me, I would have put, especially with the space that she has, I would have put 6 or 10 feet of perimeter on each of these, and then it would save a lot less couch grass creeping in on the edge. What's really cool about this farm is Heidi has pretty much done all the upfront research and made the investment in the tools. So yes, you spend more money up front, but you get into production right away, and you can make money right away. So I think this is a great example of that. You know, she's invested time in her knowledge and her education, but she's also bought a lot of the right tools. She's got a paper pot transplanter here. She's got the seeders. I'm pretty sure she's got a Jang. I haven't seen one around, but I'm pretty sure she does. She's got a quick cut greens harvester. She's got all the crucial equipment that you need to run a farm. So let's go look at some of the other infrastructure here on the operation. I was quite impressed by the post-harvest station here. And this is a really impressive post-harvest area. Very, very clean. Sort of all the standard stuff. You know, Heidi obviously learned this stuff from me at the workshops. You've got a bubbler, drying screen for greens, Got a spinner, more or less just like what I've done. It's amazing. I'm always amazed on how people can make these happen with all kinds of machines. I've never even seen a Samsung machine like this being used for a spinner. It's good to know. One thing she did that I really like is put everything on casters. So all the stuff can be moved around. Even though it's a small space, it's nice that you can kind of have things modular and move things around. Here in the greenhouse, they are doing lower and lean with their tomatoes, and it looks like they've got a decent amount of production going on. They got this greenhouse for like insanely cheap. I think this is a 36 wide by maybe just under 100 feet long. And yeah, they're doing a lot of what the, what JM Fortier is doing with the lower and lean with the tomatoes. And they've got sort of a nursery area over here, a lot of stuff that I recognize. Heidi's got a little soil bin, just like we do on our farm. And this is where they do a lot of their potting up and soil work. This is a cucamelon crop, and I call them mouse melons. They're like tiny little melons, and they taste like cucumbers. But if you get them really ripe, they'll actually have more of a sweet taste, like a watermelon. See if this one is. No, they're still green. It's hard to grow crops like this in Canada, really. Especially on coastal Canada, West Coast Canada, because it just doesn't get that hot out here. These types of crops do really well in like southern US climates or Mexico. And I think they actually call them a Mexican gherkin too. So, more suited for that climate. This is probably one of the things that Heidi wouldn't want to grow again. So that was a few things about Campbell Valley Farm. Let's get into the interview. Thanks for having me, Heidi.
Thanks for coming, Curtis.
It's been almost 2 years since I was here.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
We were just talking about that earlier, and a lot has changed.
A lot has changed.
This farm was, well, maybe why don't you tell us about the farm, and then we'll kind of go back into some of your backstory and stuff like that.
Okay, so the farm, when we purchased it, was a Christmas tree farm. 5 years worth of Christmas trees, or 7 years worth of Christmas trees had been grown here, so they were quite mature. So we decided we wanted to do veggies, but we wanted something that was organic and didn't have sprays.
Yeah.
And the lady that owned the property didn't do any of that. So that was our first focus, was taking the trees out. And you
sold the trees.
And we sold the trees.
So you made some money on the trees. Yeah.
Great money on the trees. But it's not my passion, right? So farming's my passion. So we had to work on the land also, because we're very clay-based soil. So it took a couple years to get that soil changed over to more of a farm, vegetable farm.
Yeah, and because it's heavy clay, we're also on the coast. There is major drainage issues here.
Major drainage issues. The good thing is that we are on a slope, so we knew that was going to be an advantage for us to get the water out once we got the soil up and going.
Yeah, and so you put in a number of French drains and stuff like that, hey?
A number of French drains. We're still looking in the process of doing one more and changing the beds to 50 feet and adding that French drain in there like we talked about.
Yeah, yeah. And so this was the first year.
First year.
So we're just getting kind of close to wrapping up the first year to some degree. Are you planning to go in the winter?
We are in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
We have some restaurants that actually want us to still produce.
Just some microgreens and greens and stuff like that?
And the Salanova lettuce is really popular.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the first year. There's obviously been a number of learning pains.
Huge.
What have been some of the big things that have been maybe things that you didn't overlook? Because, I mean, you came in fairly prepared. I mean, I don't know if you could be much more prepared than you were. I consulted for you. You
Correct.
Came to my workshop. I was here. You had a lot of things set up. You were smart in that you had your post-harvest area more or less done. Right? What were some of the things that were just, making you grind it out?
Well, like we talked about, the first thing was labor. That was one of the issues, is you really need people that are positive and really into farming. or at least have the mechanical skills to be able to do it. The other thing was we didn't get all the infrastructure done like we had talked about first. Irrigation was a huge issue in the beginning. A lot of it too because the fields were so wet, we couldn't get some of the stuff done in time. So we're end of May, and we still don't have irrigation in. So that was a big downfall because then we're having to do sprinklers and watering.
Yeah, and moving around sprinklers and stuff.
It's so time consuming. So, and then basically just efficiencies. Things you don't think about. Like you're like, oh yeah, I need labels, or oh yeah, I need bags. Where do you get the bags? And oh yeah, I need twist ties. What size twist ties?
Yeah,
right. So it's those little things, and if you're actually think about every step that you have to do to sell to a restaurant or to sell to a market, like we're in Nature's Fair now. So what is it you need to do that? That's the part that we probably miss the boat on. Yeah,
and it's easy to overlook those things too because they seem like minute details. When you're looking at a field, you're just thinking the farm is the field.
Exactly.
And then you're kind of pushing those other because you would have known those things. You came to my class if it was the June or August one.
Yes.
But you've seen all the stuff. But it's like you get so focused on this.
Yeah. So it was so focused on growing and farming that I forgot some of those little details. And then also the crop planning. We talked about crop planning, but because we're doing a CSA program, we have a lot more variety that we have to grow on.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your crop planning and going, okay, yeah, I could do that. I can work with that.
Yeah.
But then you add on broccoli and leeks and all these different things, and you're like, where is this stuff going to go?
Right.
Right. And then companion planting and those kind of things. So those were the downfalls. So get your plan in action first.
And I mean, going forward into next year, what are some of the things that you're going to change right away?
Right away, we're going to make sure our beds are all 30 inches. Some of them didn't work out to the 30-inch wide.
And is that because you didn't properly stake them out and measure them out perfectly? You just kind of ran the tiller?
We ran the tiller.
Right.
So, really, honestly, take the time to do that. It would have benefited us much better. The other thing is having for our squash a whole different section for the squash because we had it in, and of course it just grows.
It just grows into the next bed.
So it's just better crop planning, making sure our beds are 30 inches, and cutting down some of the crops that really, even for our CSAs, really aren't profitable or they don't like.
What are some of those things you're going to cut?
Well, cucamelons.
We I love cucamelons, but
as much as I love them, they just don't grow well here. Okra, we had okra, artichokes.
And okra is not really a thing that people in West Coast Canada eat.
No, it's not. So we tried okra, we tried artichokes. We tried some. Everybody actually did like the kohlrabi. That was a great thing for the CSAs. But celeriac, unless you're growing it for a restaurant, they don't. CSAs aren't really going to be interested.
Right, and so you got a restaurant that's taken a lot of that celeriac. Well, that's good.
We do. So
yeah.
But so it's really focusing also on where your market's going to be and what you need to grow for them. So for the restaurants is actually sitting down with them and saying what is it you use and what can I grow for you.
Yeah.
So.
And so did you have any of those conversations preliminary to the season?
No.
Okay.
No. So an example is like the beets. We did baby beets, we did the badger beets from row 7, and we did the cylindrica. We did 4 or 5 different varieties, and what we found was like the row 7 beets, the badger beets, are so popular with the restaurants, and the just regular beets for CSAs, they're just happy with that.
Right.
So we didn't have to grow 5 different varieties.
Right.
So really look at your varieties and narrow it down.
I wonder though, to some degree, that it's an inevitability in a first year of a farm you kind of have to cast a wide net to figure out what your market wants.
True.
So it's there's really no way around it in a way. Like, I mean, if you looked back, you'd probably say, well, if we had our irrigation sorted out from the beginning, it might have been a smoother ride.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you would have had that with the crops per se, because you have to see what people want, right?
True.
Yeah.
And like our leeks have been very popular, and just fluked out that I grew 6 rows of leeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't the original plan. It's just I ended up seeding more than I had thought, and thought, oh, I've got room, let's put it in. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But those can also be downfalls.
Yeah.
If you don't find the market for it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your season and where we are. So we are right in the Lower Mainland. We're literally right next to the U.S. border.
Correct.
You can go around the corner here half a block and walk across to the U.S.
Yep.
So we're right above Washington. We're probably 100 kilometers from Vancouver now, from here,
Correct.
from Langley, and it's a wet climate.
Very wet climate.
It's a very wet climate, but it's been a dry summer.
It's been very dry, and we are in a sort of a microclimate. The winery down the road and ourselves, we're sort of in that microclimate where it's a little bit, it's either really cold or it's really hot. So this can get hotter than downtown Langley by about 3 degrees.
Oh wow, that's interesting. And what was it like was summer fairly dry?
Summer was very dry. We've probably turned off the irrigation maybe twice.
Wow.
This
From
summer.
when till when?
From May till now.
From May till now.
From May till now.
Oh wow. Usually, I mean, I expect on the coast that they get, it's dry from July and August and maybe September, but wow, from May.
From May.
Wow. So that presents challenges too, because it's so wet at the other time of the year at the beginning, and then it's so dry.
So dry.
With heavy clay soil too.
And
right?
we're on a well system, so we have to, our irrigation. That's the other thing. You have to, if you're on a well system, you got to time it so that you're not overdoing it on the well.
And were you overdoing it at any point? Like, has that well met your needs so far?
It has met our needs. I don't know if we're going to be able to go more though.
Right.
The 3/4 of an acre is we're probably right at the max based on water pressure and what we've observed on having a really hot season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Are you feeling now that the farm is making enough money that you feel comfortable in what you've invested, and are there any other big investments to make? I mean, you guys have spent a decent amount of money this year. You got a hell of a deal on those greenhouses though.
Yeah, $1,000.
$1,000 for 3 of these greenhouses, unbelievable. Is it, do you forecast some growth going into next year? Like how are some of those playing out for you?
Yeah, so we've been talking about it. We're looking again, cutting down on certain crops, and then because we got organically certified, we now have a demand for certain crops like organic pickling cukes.
Yes.
We've been asked, like, probably I have 4 calls a day still on it.
Wow.
So those kind of things, organic rhubarb. So we have certain stores and certain customer base that actually now it has to be organically certified. They want that product that way. Blueberries is another one, but I don't think we're going to go down.
Well, you're surrounded by blueberry farms, so it might not be worth it.
Not good.
Wow.
But that's what we're looking at.
And are you kind of forecasting that those things are going to bring in a lot more revenue?
A lot more revenue, price per pound.
Was it profitable this year when you factored in all the labor? Like, forget your investment costs, infrastructure. That's not, you can't realistically pair that into a first year. But labor and inputs and stuff like that, was it?
Because we talked about this weed suppression.
Yeah.
It's so huge. It's such a huge critical component the first year on the farm. We've had to do a lot of manual weeding, which obviously costs a lot of money for labor.
Yeah.
Taking that out, because I track everything, then we would have been profitable.
Yeah.
But the labor that we've spent in the last month or so since the weeds just come on it's draining the funds.
Yeah, and it can really quickly. I mean, and that's part of you're employing a lot of these strategies, and you have the infrastructure in place to
but
correct
again,
it.
It was late.
Yeah.
Right? So our weed mats were late.
Uh-huh.
Right? So we should have done that right from the get-go before starting a new section, get the weed mats down.
Right.
Right, for the first year.
So,
So doing it, and then we had to end up pulling weeds and then laying weed mat and, trying to maneuver around crops and stuff. Not smart.
So, kind of in retrospect, after your first year, would you say, and it sounds like this is the case, but would you say that your biggest pain points were irrigation and weed management?
Yes, those.
And then maybe there was some labor issues with not the right person in the first year.
Yeah. Those would be the 3 that I would say focus on that.
Yeah, hey.
Because they can make it or break it.
Absolutely. I mean, well, the good thing is the irrigation set up now.
Yep.
And you've got the infrastructure in place to keep your weeds under better management going forward. Sounds like if you just sort out the labor thing. And you got some good crew now.
We got good crew now. It's all females.
Yeah.
We're all but there's 4 of us, and we all work well together, and it's all focus on work, and let's get it done. And everybody's, and cross training, really important. Making sure that everybody knows how to do something the same, so that you can say, okay, well, you're in this zone and you're doing this, and they know.
Yeah.
So
And that's their
take the
job.
time to cross train people.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you've been, I guess, bouncing around because you're delegating. You're getting somebody going on something, and then you're going to make sure they're doing it right. And,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Have you found any pain points with that, as being sort of being the boss?
No, because I've been in management before.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
easy for me.
Right. And so, well, maybe that's a good time for us to circle into, what made you want to get into this, and I'd like to hear about I know, but I'd like everybody else to hear about what you were doing before you got into farming.
Okay, so before I got into farming, I was a packaging consultant, basically for 25 years. Sold wine bottles to the wineries.
Okay.
And managed a team from BC all the way to Washington, Oregon. Took off the management part, and I was still doing just the sales part of it, and I just wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah.
I love growing.
Yeah.
Even just for myself. So I thought, you know what? I saw you, and actually Pete from Little Straw introduced us.
That's
remember?
right. You came over to my.
I came
You
over.
came over. Yeah.
And
yeah.
after seeing your stuff, I was just like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm still completely pumped. It's just great.
Yeah.
And so that's what I decided was
Wow.
to sort of copy what you did.
Yeah, and you went for it, and you're.
And most people
you're-
don't do that at 50.
No, I know. I was gonna say, well, you're not a spring chicken
I'm
either.
not a
So
spring chicken.
it's always cool when people have that career shift and then they try something new. And so, well, it's good to hear that after your first year, especially during the time when most people are so burnt out, that you're still passionate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you're stoked for next year.
Stoked.
Yeah.
Completely.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for having me here,
Thanks,
Heidi.
Curtis, for coming.
Yeah.
And I loved your course. Honestly, if there's something you want to do, is take Curtis's course, because you'll be completely amazed.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
It was awesome having you come because we met
with
before
all these
too.
people, right?
Yeah,
And
the
some have
networking.
the networking, and some have done it, some haven't, and it's just phenomenal.
Have you stayed in touch with anybody that in the Kelowna course when you came?
Yeah. So Sarah down south.
Yeah.
And then,
Sarah and her husband Kirk.
Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Darby.
Okay. Yeah.
Darby.
Yeah.
And then Etienne. Is that
Etienne. Yeah. Okay.
So we follow each other in
Oh,
comments,
that's
so,
great.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's one of the best things about is just the networking that you get out of these things.
Well, yeah, and just it's just nice to know, like with your course, what I liked about it was you came in, it's no BS. Like you just give us all the information, because sometimes you talk to farmers, and this is what I found in the beginning was I started doing research, and people didn't want to give you information.
Yeah, scarcity mindset kind of thing. Yeah.
Whereas Curtis, you are like you just like gave me everything I needed.
Yeah.
And that's why this year we're as successful as we can. If I did this from scratch or reading a book, I can tell you right now, just kill me.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's
So,
awesome. That's good
like,
to know.
That was inspirational.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Heidi.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.